Welcome everyone to Coaching in Session. My name is Michael Rearden and I'll be your mindset coach today. And today we're going to be talking about the difference between knowledge and wisdom. And you might think that if you read a book or if you have some experience, then you're going to be all set, whether it be from a knowledge perspective or from a wisdom perspective, aka experience. So today we're going to be breaking that down and to understand the difference between knowledge and wisdom. If you're new to the channel, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and to share this video. So when we look at knowledge, we have to understand something about it. Knowledge is going to be that information that you get from books, from people, but we don't apply any action to. So we have a good understanding. One of the examples I use in the blog is we can have knowledge of riding a bike, and we can read hundreds of books about how to ride a bike. Yet, when we get on the bike, we're not going to be able to ride it, right? Because there's so much more than just learning about the knowledge of riding a bike. And that's going to range from if you're able to know where the handlebars, the brakes are, how to initiate the brakes. There's so much to riding a bike. And it is intuitive. So if you're just learning to ride a bike, it's kind of like, all right, here we go. In the beginning, you might not know how to keep your balance. You might not know how to use the brakes. But if you're going into a situation and you're like, okay, I know how to apply the brakes now. I know how to steer. So there's going to be things that knowledge can help you with so you're in a better position when you're on that bike for the first time. Yet, just because you have that knowledge or just because you have that wisdom doesn't take the place of experience. Now, wisdom is going to be, for example, if you're teaching your child to ride a bike and you're the parent and you know how to ride a bike already. So wisdom is going to be that you're helping your child learn how to ride the bike by giving them tips, pointers. That's going to be your instilling wisdom. And it's not so much knowledge because you're operating under the bounds of, I already have this experience and I learned from my mistakes. And now you can relay that information to someone else. The problem is that the child is going to say, well, that's your wisdom, it's not mine. And until they gain the experience, it's just going to be treated as knowledge. So things are going to be treated as knowledge until they become wisdom. But it doesn't mean that that wisdom that someone has and instills into us can't be useful. So let's get into the blog and start looking at that. So first, you're going to want to head over to revenantconcepts.com. Then head over to the resources tab, go to blogs, and then our newest blog is going to be knowledge versus wisdom. Now we go into depth in the blog on the difference between knowledge and wisdom and how knowledge is going to be like your book type of learning, your information that you get, your input, and your wisdom is going to be dealing with experiences and living through it with action. The takeaway I can tell you from this blog is that you don't necessarily need a bunch of knowledge in order to be a success in life. For an example, you might have a knowledge of carpentry, right? You might have been a carpenter for many years and now you are transitioning to a world of business finance. So now you're doing business finance and you might ask, how does carpentry work with business finance? And it doesn't necessarily correlate easily. Now, of course, you might learn soft skills like discipline, appointment setting, skills like that might be used, but we have to understand it's not business finance. And vice versa, if you're in business finance going into carpentry, you might not know the first thing about woodwork. And that is going to be the difference. Just because you have knowledge, it doesn't mean that you're going to be skilled in a certain area, especially if the knowledge that you have is going to be different. That's why when you're looking for a job or if you're speaking to an employer, you go on Indeed.com and you are trying to look for a new job for example. They look for qualified people or for relevant work experience. So if they're a teacher, for example, they're going to be looking for someone who has an education degree, someone who's good with childcare, someone who has been in the education field in some facet, some manner, where those skills can correlate to the job. Now, of course, you can be a garbage truck driver and apply to the job. And just because you're a garbage truck driver, it might disqualify you because you don't have the qualifications of childcare. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you're bad at childcare. You might actually have 6 children of your own. So you know more about childcare. It's just that you don't have the credentials yet. So you might not have the knowledge of education or teaching education, but you have the wisdom from raising your children. So you have to start to wonder, which is better? Is knowledge better or is wisdom better? And I will tell you that both play an important role, but wisdom does something more than knowledge, is that we have a definitive outcome for the actions we take or took. And I remember early on when I was a teacher, I had to take all my knowledge that I learned from school, and then I had to apply it to the classroom. And regardless of the wisdom that I got from my professors and my mentors and my cooperating teachers, I still had to apply it into my own manner. And we're going to get into that in a little bit more. But looking at the blog really quickly, we get to see the different areas. So the first area is going to be applying what they know in the right place at the right time. And that's going to be, again, both knowledge and wisdom. When are we able to apply knowledge and when are we able to apply wisdom? And this whole first area is going to be talking about the differences and how to apply that. In our second area, the person is going to be thinking, acting, or discerning for what is best in the certain situation. So that's going to be talking about if you have the knowledge of driving, you might know which way to go. So if there's a car accident on the right, we're going to move left, right? You might know that from reading a book. And it might seem like common sense, but it is knowledge. And wisdom might be along the lines of you were in the car accident and you saw people going around. So then you're like, okay, I'm experiencing this, right? And it goes into better detail in the blog, but I'm not going to go too deep into it right now because I'm going to take a different approach. And then our last area is going to be wisdom is going to be passing down the information as knowledge, right? So talked about it a little bit earlier, but we're going to be diving into all of those very shortly. This blog here is going to be a supplemental read to what this podcast is, and I do encourage you to come read this blog, Knowledge versus Wisdom, and let's start to dissect the difference between knowledge and wisdom. So when I was a teacher, I had to go to college, of course, and I had to get an education. And the degree was going to be in education. So I learned all about childhood development. I learned about teaching skills. I learned about just being in front of the classroom, public speaking. There were so many different skills that I had to acquire or master to a degree that I was going to use in the classroom. And of course, you work on lesson plans, you learn about laws, regulations, like all that is there too. But the primary aspect of teaching is teaching itself. But you have to understand, when you're in college, how much teaching are you necessarily doing? Very little, maybe 5% most. That's conservative. Though we're only teaching 5%, we're expected to be these wonderful teachers when we go into the classroom. Now, I will tell you this. A teacher coming out of school is going to have some type of area they need to work on, right? There's going to be an area where they're not as good at or they're not good in. And for me, that was the knowledge base. Even though I went into school, learned all the knowledge, I had to take what I learned and then make it so now the kids can learn this, right? So that was my biggest piece, where I needed to make sure I was able to relay the information to them where they can understand and where they were learning. And I was able to work on that during my cooperating teaching. And by the end of my 14 weeks of working with teachers, I was able to get into a good swing of things where I was efficient. And it only took me 14 weeks, but that was my weak point when I walked in. And now we talk about classroom management, easy peasy, because before I graduated, I was a swim instructor and I would teach children how to swim. And I had to probably spend the first 2 or 3 months learning how to teach children how to swim, even though I knew how to swim, Even though I was already adequate and I had the knowledge, I didn't have the wisdom of teaching a child how to swim. Same thing, I didn't have the wisdom of teaching a child in the classroom setting. In the beginning, you're not going to be 100%, oh, I'm amazing, I'm good. There's going to be a learning curve. And for me, the learning curve for swimming was I didn't know how to teach a child how to swim. And it does correlate for adults. It's actually more simple to teach an adult because you can just talk to them and say, hey, I would like this, versus working with a child. You're going to have to make it fun, engaging, interactive. You have to understand their fatigue level. There's so many different aspects to swimming than just moving your arms and moving your feet. And from that point, I was already good at classroom management because I had to sometimes deal with unruly children. And so I took that experience that I had now was wisdom. And when I went into the classroom setting, I did not have issues with classroom behavior problems. Now, of course, sometimes you have a hiccup here and there because people have a bad day. Something went wrong or things didn't go exactly as planned. That's life, right? We can always expect something like that to happen. Some days are going to be rough, but I had the majority of my days good. People listened. We were on track to learning. For swimming, I only saw them once a week, 30 minutes. And I had to make sure I used that 30 minutes and I didn't waste it, right? I wasn't looking to squander that time. So it was a fast-paced environment where I had 30 minutes with them and we had to teach them how to swim. And of course, there's going to be a hierarchy of how you teach. The knowledge base of, okay, this is what they need to know in the order they need to know it. And a little bit of that is knowledge and a little bit of that is wisdom. So it combines itself. And my boss at the time, he was a former swimmer and he had started his company and he was a great instructor and he was fun and he was engaging. So I learned from him and I learned from other instructors. And basically I just learned a skill, mimicry. And so I just watched what he did and then I started to mold that into my own, right? I made it my own. And when you're a teacher, the same thing has to happen. So you're working with a cooperating teacher and you look at this teacher and you say, okay, they're doing this. How can I make it my own? Because what they're doing should be effective, right? You're watching them and you're looking at them. This is effective teaching. You can tell by the engagement level of the students. So now that I understand that this is effective, how can I make it my own? And of course, it might be trial error in the beginning, but eventually you find a groove. And once you find that groove, then it's going to be, oh, this is easy. It's like a knack. And that's what happened in swimming. And then that's what happened in school too. Because I said, I'm going to learn how to teach them in a manner which is going to be fun, engaging, and I have full control of the classroom setting, whether it be in the pool or whether it be in the classroom, right? So regardless of it, I was able to be a good educator. I was able to be effective. And that's so important because many people have knowledge, but they're not effective with that knowledge. And I say in the blog, Elon Musk said, you can have a college degree but still be an idiot. And he's so right. And it's not so much to say that the world is full of dumb people, even if you have a degree, but the degree doesn't mean you have proficiency in what you're going to be doing. So if you have a college degree in psychology, you might not be a good psychologist. And it's not saying that you're a bad person. It just means you don't have enough experience quite yet, whether that be knowledge or wisdom based. So there's going to be a bunch of different methods for you to increase your knowledge, to increase your wisdom. And I do speak about that in the blog some, but just to give you a few quick examples, knowledge is just going to be like if you wanted to amass a bunch of books. Before I started my business in 2017, I read probably close to 100 books that year, just before starting my business. And it was because I wanted to stack my deck. I wanted to stack the cards. And I wanted to know what I was getting into, basically. I wanted to acquire a large pool of knowledge. And though I had this pool of knowledge, I had to be able to use this knowledge and go out and then make my own experiences, because my story is going to be different than your story, of course. So when it comes to if I'm able to do something, do I have the knowledge or do I have the wisdom? Because if I have the wisdom, that means I have already done it. And right now I'm going to share with you what I'm currently undergoing. When I started the business 2018, I didn't have a website up until I believe 2019 or late 2018. And it was because I was learning how to do the website. And so I started with Squarespace, and Squarespace is a pretty straightforward beginner type of website where you can do blogs, which is what I primarily started with. And then, of course, you can move into web pages, things like that. And if you saw my website when it first came out, I don't think I have any pictures. It wasn't necessarily the most beautiful type of website. And it was because I didn't have any knowledge on it. And I had to basically do trial and error on, okay, this is this, then I had to do that. I watched YouTube videos, I read books, articles, blogs, and trying to figure out how can I make this website the best. And I even had people lined up to design the website for me, but for some reason, when it came to Squarespace, everyone was not really into creating the website. So the first person, they wanted to do it, but they didn't really follow through. So I was like, okay, not a problem. Then I started to do the website myself. I had something set up because the business already started. So I wanted some place where people can go, see the content, and then of course, schedule appointments. Though it wasn't the most beautiful website in the beginning, it was a work in progress. And I think every website is going to be a work in progress. But for me, it was a start. And then, so I was like, okay, I did pretty good. And then I'm trying to elevate to get to a better quality of website. And as, again, time was going by, and then the website got better and better and better. And even though I still looked for designers to come in, help, it was like I was by myself and I had to figure this out by myself. So I amassed a bunch more knowledge, and then I created the wisdom. And now I'm getting ready to open up a area where I build Squarespace websites for people. Because if you have Squarespace and you don't like your website necessarily, if you want to make some updates, I did all the work to learn about Squarespace. But now I'm transitioning from Squarespace to WordPress. Now they're not the same. They're totally different. And what I'm doing now is amassing a bunch of knowledge that's going to help me be proficient in WordPress too. And it's not so much that I want to do web design. It's not so much that I want to do video editing and all the things that's pertaining to web development. It's just, for me, it's just a skill part of the business. Eventually it's going to be delegated, where even the podcast, the websites, the social media, some of it is already delegated, but I'm going to get into a position where 100% of that's going to be delegated, where what I want to do is I want to speak to you, whether it be on the podcast, whether it be on a coaching call. That is what I want. And the next step from that is going to be even more than what that is. And it's still going to be me working with individuals or companies and making a difference using my knowledge and my wisdom. However, I know that just because I have knowledge, it doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to be 100% in the beginning. I need that wisdom. And that's why I tell people having a mentor is so powerful, because not only are they going to help you get to the next level, they're going to help you see your blind spots. They're going to help you figure out, hey, you're doing this and you should be doing this. So there's so much more to knowledge and wisdom than just, okay, let me read a book. Oh, I put my hand in the fire, I got burned, don't do that again. And when you're growing up, when you're a teen, right? When you hit your teen years and the hormones kick in, guess what happens? We have amassed 13, 14, 15 years of knowledge. Some wisdom too, right? What happens around that time is that many children, teens, they feel like they know everything. And this is going to be the majority of teens, right? This is not by accident either. It's just that we don't have the wisdom yet to understand we don't know much. We only have 15 years of experience living in the world, and we think 15 years is enough to say, all right, this is my conclusion. But it's not. So we have knowledge, and what we need as teenagers is we need parents or an adult figure or guardian to instill wisdom unto us. Because if they do not instill wisdom unto us, guess what happens? We are going to create or recreate their mistakes. because there's so many things that adults do that they make a mistake and they say, don't do this because this was a mistake for me. And this is not saying that I can't do it, you can't do it. This is like, hey, I was able to accomplish this, but I would recommend doing this first. So you're not simply wasting time, right? So we can be more efficient as years goes on. But if we don't pass on that wisdom, then we have a problem. And it goes into the community, it goes into parenting, whether it be a single parent household, no parent household. If the child doesn't have any type of wisdom or direction, they're going to basically be living the best they can or allowing life to be the circumstances that happen. And we need to figure that out, because even if you're by yourself, you don't have a parent, a guardian, you're all alone and you're in your early 20s, maybe 30s, and now you're trying to figure out your life. Get a life coach. Figure out what you need to do. You want to find someone who's going to say, hey, I know what you need to do, and let's get you there. I have helped this many people, so many people, etc., and we have got there. I know the path, and the path is going to be similar for you. If you want to get in shape, what do? Go to the gym. Now, of course, you can lift some weights, go home, do some workouts, but the process is going to be movement, right? Action. We're not going to get in shape by sitting on the sofa with the remote, turning on Netflix and taking no action. And yeah, you might be moving your finger, burning 45 calories an hour, but that's not enough. So there's going to be a difference in how deliberate we have to be. Now, the knowledge that we get can just be simply by watching a video. And when it comes to wisdom, we have to apply it. So we have to have action. Similar to how I said earlier, you can read a bunch of books, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to know exactly what you're going to do. You're going to have an inclination of what you should be doing, but it doesn't mean you're going to know what to do. So this blog, Knowledge versus Wisdom, is a wonderful read. I recommend everyone give it a read, because understanding the difference between knowledge and wisdom is going to help you define what you are gaining on a given day. Are you gaining knowledge? Do you need knowledge? Do you need wisdom, right? Because if we have some type of direction in what we need, then we can start to head in the direction of where we should be. So all of that's going to play into what leads to our most desired life, the life that we want, the life that we dream of, the life that we want to have, the life that we should have. There's so many different aspects to that. And the first thing is that we have to understand it's going to be work. We need action, because a dream without any action is just a dream. They don't call it the American dream for nothing. But for the American dream, you have to be awake. You have to be able to take action. Wonderful read. Again, Knowledge versus Wisdom. I can talk to you for hours on this type of topic, but this is just a short intro for what the blog is. And I do encourage everyone to, again, read the blog, understand it, and then understand if you need knowledge in your life or more wisdom in your life. But each of us needs both. We need to take time to acquire knowledge sometimes, and we need to take time to acquire wisdom sometimes. And understanding the balance that you need is going to be key to your success and key to your future. My name is Michael Rearden. I'm a mindset coach here in Austin, Texas. If you have any questions, you can email me, coachinginsession@gmail.com. I will see everyone in the next episode of Coaching in Session. Until then, take care.